The afternoon sun painted long shadows across the winding dirt road as Marcus Bennett's weathered pickup truck rumbled toward what he hoped would be salvation. In the passenger seat, his 8-year-old daughter Emma clutched her backpack like a lifeline, her hazel eyes fixed on the approaching structure in the distance. "Is that really ours, Dad?" Emma's voice carried equal parts wonder and uncertainty. Marcus glanced at his daughter, managing a tired smile. "It is, sweetheart. Our fresh start." For months ago, Marcus had been a different man. A successful architect in Boston with a beautiful office, a comfortable suburban home, and a future that seemed carved in stone. Then his wife Rachel died suddenly in a car accident, and everything crumbled like a house built on sand. The grief paralyzed him. He stopped going to work, stopped answering calls, stopped functioning. His firm let him go. The mortgage payments piled up. Within weeks, the foreclosure notice arrived. Standing in their empty living room with nothing but suitcases and broken dreams, Marcus had made a decision. He sold everything they had left and bought this abandoned property in rural Maine. A dilapidated cottage on 12 acres for $18,000. It was all he could afford, all he had left. The truck slowed as they approached the cottage. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Something was wrong. Smoke curled lazily from the stone chimney. His heart hammered. The place had been empty for over a decade, according to the realtor. He'd inspected it 7 weeks ago. Boarded windows, knee-high weeds, doors hanging off hinges. Abandoned. Lifeless. "Dad, why is there smoke?" Emma's voice quavered. "Stay here, Em. Lock the doors." Marcus cut the engine and stepped out into the crisp October air. He approached cautiously, construction instincts on high alert. The front door stood slightly open. Through the gap, he could see movement inside, flickers of firelight dancing on cleaned walls. Marcus pushed the door wide. The transformation stopped him cold. The main room had been swept clean. Broken furniture had been removed. The fireplace, which he'd assumed was beyond repair, crackled with warmth. And standing in the center of the room, frozen like deer in headlights, were 3 people. 2 young men who looked barely out of their teens, and between them, a girl no older than 5 or 6. For several heartbeats, nobody moved. Then one of the young men stepped forward, hands raised defensively. "Please, sir, we can explain. We'll leave right now. Just please don't call the authorities." The second young man pulled the little girl protectively behind him. "We haven't damaged anything, I swear. We've actually been fixing things. We thought nobody wanted this place." Marcus studied them. Both looked to be in their early 20s. One with dark hair and glasses, the other blonde with a weathered face that suggested he'd lived harder than his years indicated. The little girl peeking from behind them had tangled brown hair and wore clothes that had seen better days. None of them looked threatening. They looked terrified. "Who are you?" Marcus kept his voice level. "And what are you doing in my house?" "I'm Daniel," said the dark-haired one. "This is my brother Lucas, and that's his daughter Mia. We're sorry. We really are. We've been here about 3 weeks. We didn't think anyone would ever." "Dad." Emma appeared in the doorway, ignoring his instructions to stay in the truck. Her eyes went immediately to Mia. "There's a kid here." Mia emerged slightly from behind Lucas, curiosity overcoming fear. "Hi." "Hi," Emma responded. "I'm Emma. That's my dad. He's really nice, even though he looks grumpy right now." Marcus sighed. "Emma, I told you to wait in the truck. But it's cold, and there's a fire here, and they have a little kid." She looked at Marcus with that particular expression that always undid him, Rachel's expression. "They can't be bad people if they have a kid, right?" The question hung in the air. Marcus looked at the 3 squatters. No, that word felt too harsh. 3 people who'd clearly been living rough and found shelter in his abandoned property. He noticed details now. The patched cardboard over broken windows, the neatly stacked firewood, the swept floors. They hadn't trashed the place. They'd improved it. "How old is she?" Marcus asked, nodding toward Mia. 5, Lucas answered quietly. She just turned 5 last month. And you're her father? Yes, sir. I know this looks bad. We can be gone in 15 minutes. Just let me pack our things. Marcus thought about the last 4 months. The desperation, the fear, the crushing weight of having nowhere to turn. He remembered sitting in his car in a parking lot, crying because he couldn't afford a motel room, trying to figure out how to explain to Emma that they might have to sleep in the truck again. He recognized that same fear in Lucas's eyes. Everyone sit down, Marcus said finally. Let's talk. 20 minutes later, they were all gathered around the fire. Emma and Mia had gravitated toward each other with the easy friendship of children. Marcus sat on an overturned crate while Daniel and Lucas perched tensely on another, ready to bolt at any moment. Start from the beginning, Marcus said. How did you end up here? The brothers exchanged glances. Then Daniel spoke. Lucas and I grew up in foster care. Different homes, mostly. We aged out of the system 3 years ago. Me at 18, him at 21. Lucas was working construction, trying to save money. Then he met Sophia. Lucas took over, his voice soft. Mia's mother. She was amazing. We got married, had Mia. Everything was good for a while. Then Sophia got sick. Cancer. Stage 4 by the time they found it. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He knew the story. Different details, same devastating ending. She fought for 2 years, Lucas continued. The medical bills destroyed us. I worked 3 jobs, but it wasn't enough. When Sophia died last year, I had nothing left. No savings, no home, debt up to my neck. I was living in my car with Mia. Daniel picked up the thread. I found them 3 months ago. I'd been working odd jobs, barely scraping by myself. When I saw what was happening with Lucas and Mia, I knew I had to help. But 2 broke guys with a kid and no address? Nobody would rent to us. Nobody would hire us properly without a permanent address. It's a cycle you can't break. How did you find this place? Marcus asked. I did electrical work for a realtor in town, Daniel explained. I overheard her saying this property had been sitting empty for years, that nobody wanted it because it needed too much work. We were desperate. We drove out here one night, and he gestured around them. We've been here ever since. We've been trying to make it better, Lucas added quickly. Not just living here, but actually fixing things. Daniel knows electrical and plumbing. I know carpentry. We've been repairing what we can, hoping that maybe if we made it valuable again, we could somehow, I don't know, earn the right to stay. Marcus looked at the room with new eyes. The sealed windows, the working fireplace, the reinforced door frame. These weren't squatters. They were survivors trying to build something from nothing. Emma, Marcus said, come here for a second. His daughter approached and he pulled her close. What do you think we should do? Emma looked at him seriously. Mommy always said we should help people who need help. She did say that. And they have Mia. She shouldn't have to sleep in a car. That's not fair. Marcus felt something crack open inside his chest. Rachel would have known what to do immediately. She'd always been better at the human stuff, at seeing people's pain and responding with compassion instead of caution. He looked at Daniel and Lucas. Here's what I'm thinking. This place needs months of work before it's actually livable, proper livable, not camping in a shell livable. I'm an architect, but I'm rusty on the actual building. I need help. The brothers stared at him. I can't pay much, almost nothing at first. But if you help me restore this place, really restore it, you can stay. We'll figure out sleeping arrangements, get the utilities connected properly, make it work for all of us. You teach me the hands-on stuff I've forgotten. I'll handle the design and planning. We build something together. Are you serious? Daniel's voice cracked. You'd let us stay? I am. But there are conditions. We're honest with each other, always. Everyone pulls their weight. We figure this out as we go, together. And most importantly, Marcus looked at Mia, then Emma. We do right by these kids. They've both been through enough. Lucas stood abruptly, turning away. His shoulders shook. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Why would you do this? Daniel asked. You don't know us. Marcus thought about the question carefully. 4 months ago, I would have given anything for someone to offer me a lifeline. Nobody did. I had to figure it out alone, and it almost broke me. He met Daniel's gaze. So I'm offering you what I needed. A chance. Thank you, Lucas managed, still facing away. You have no idea what this means. I think I do, Marcus said quietly. Now let's get some sleep. Tomorrow we start figuring out what this place actually needs. The first month was chaos orchestrated by desperation and hope. They started with the essentials, getting electricity restored legally, which meant Marcus calling in favors from his old professional network and Daniel rewiring half the cottage to meet code. Water was next, a project that required digging up frozen ground and replacing corroded pipes. The 5 of them fell into an unexpected rhythm. Marcus sketched plans and managed the budget with terrifying precision. Every dollar counted when you had almost none. Daniel proved to be a wizard with electrical and plumbing systems, able to diagnose problems Marcus couldn't see and fix them with scrapped materials. Lucas handled the heavy carpentry, his hands sure and experienced despite his young age. Emma and Mia became inseparable. Emma, older by 3 years, took on a protective role that both amused and touched Marcus. She'd read to Mia before bed, help her wash up, make sure she ate properly. It was as if Emma had found a purpose in caring for someone else who'd lost a mother. One evening, about 5 weeks in, Marcus came inside to find Lucas teaching Emma how to use a level while Mia supervised with a toy hammer. See, you put it on the board like this, Lucas was explaining patiently. If the bubble stays in the middle, your board is straight. What if it's not straight? Emma asked. Then you adjust until it is. Building is all about patience and getting things right, even when it takes longer than you want. Emma nodded seriously, applying the lesson with intense concentration. Marcus watched from the doorway, something warm expanding in his chest. This was what a family looked like, not necessarily by blood, but by choice and circumstance and shared struggle. Later, after the girls were asleep, Marcus found himself on the porch with Daniel. The night was cold and crystalline, stars scattered overhead like spilled diamonds. Can I ask you something? Daniel said after a while. Of course. Why architecture? What made you choose that? Marcus considered the question. I liked the idea of creating spaces where people could live their lives, where families could make memories. Sounds idealistic, right? Sounds meaningful. It was. Until I got so caught up in the business side that I forgot about the meaning. Then Rachel died, and suddenly none of it mattered. All those beautiful buildings I designed, and I couldn't design my way out of grief. Daniel nodded. Lucas told me once that building things with your hands is different from designing them. He said when you build something yourself, you put a piece of your life into it. Every nail, every board. It becomes part of your story. He's right, Marcus agreed. I'm remembering that now. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Daniel said, Thank you for seeing us as people instead of problems. Most folks wouldn't have. Most folks haven't been desperate, Marcus replied. It changes your perspective. By December, the cottage was unrecognizable. They'd installed proper insulation, fixed the roof, replaced rotted floorboards, and built a functional kitchen from salvaged cabinets and cheap materials. 3 small bedrooms upstairs were now weatherproofed and livable. Marcus and Emma in one, Lucas and Mia in another, Daniel in the third. The work was grueling but satisfying in a way Marcus had forgotten work could be. There was something primal about creating shelter with your own hands, about turning ruins into refuge. Christmas approached, and none of them had money for gifts or celebrations. But Emma had other ideas. We should make decorations, she announced one evening. Mia and me found pine cones in the woods. We could paint them. That's a lovely idea, sweetheart, Marcus said. But we don't have paint. Daniel said he could make paint from things. Natural stuff. Right, Daniel. Daniel looked surprised to be consulted. I mean, theoretically, I read about it once. Using berries and clay and stuff. See, Emma looked triumphant. We can make our own decorations. And Lucas said he could carve things from wood scraps. And you could. She looked at her father expectantly. Marcus felt the familiar ache of inadequacy. I could draw designs for ornaments. Perfect. Emma beamed. We're going to have the best Christmas ever. Marcus doubted that, but he wasn't going to crush her enthusiasm. Over the next 2 weeks, they threw themselves into preparation. Daniel experimented with natural dyes, creating surprisingly vibrant colors from foraged materials. Lucas carved intricate snowflakes and stars from scrap wood. Marcus sketched patterns that Emma and Mia would follow to decorate their handmade ornaments. On Christmas Eve, they stood back to admire their work. The cottage's main room was transformed, handmade decorations hanging from exposed beams. A small pine tree Lucas had cut from their property standing in the corner, adorned with their creations. It wasn't magazine perfect. It was better. It was theirs. This is beautiful, Lucas said quietly. Mia, look what we made. Mia clapped her hands. It's magic. Emma grinned. See, Dad? Best Christmas ever. Marcus pulled her close, his throat tight. You were right, Em. You were absolutely right. That night, after the girls were asleep, the 3 men sat by the fire with mugs of cheap coffee, the only thing they had resembling a luxury. I was thinking, Daniel said hesitantly, once we finish the cottage, we could maybe start taking on small jobs. Use this as our home base but do restoration work for other people. Build a real business. Marcus had been thinking the same thing. We'd need a name, tools, insurance eventually. But it's possible, Lucas said. Right? We could actually build something sustainable here? It's possible, Marcus agreed. It'll take time and work, but yes, it's possible. They clinked their coffee mugs together. A toast to possibility, to second chances, to the strange family they were becoming. Spring arrived like a promise kept. The snow melted, revealing the 12 acres Marcus had barely thought about when he bought the property. Now, looking at the land with clearer eyes, he saw potential. We could have a garden, Daniel suggested one morning. Grow our own vegetables. Save money on food. Do you know how to garden? Marcus asked. No, but I can learn. I'm good at learning. They started small. A plot behind the cottage where they planted tomatoes, lettuce, beans, and herbs. Daniel read library books about gardening and applied the knowledge with scientific precision. Lucas built raised beds from scrap lumber. Emma and Mia planted seeds with the unshakable faith of children who believe that buried things will grow. And grow they did. By June, they had fresh vegetables. By July, more than they could eat themselves. We could sell the extra at the farmer's market, Emma suggested. I could run the stand. Mia could help. You're 8 years old, Marcus pointed out. Almost 9. And besides, people love buying from kids. It's good marketing. Marcus looked at Lucas and Daniel, trying not to laugh. Did she just use the phrase good marketing? She's not wrong, Daniel said. People do love buying from kids. So they got a permit and set up a small stand at the local farmer's market. Emma proved to be a natural saleswoman, charming customers with her enthusiasm and Mia's adorable presence. They didn't make much money, but it was something. More importantly, it connected them to the community. People started to know them. The odd little family in the restored cottage. Marcus, the architect who'd given up city life. The 2 young men who could fix anything. The kids who sold vegetables with infectious joy. In August, Marcus got his first real architecture commission since Boston. A local business owner who needed someone to design a small office expansion. It wasn't much, but it was legitimate work using his actual skills. You should take it, Daniel encouraged. We can handle the physical work here. This is your chance to use what you're actually trained for. I don't want to leave you guys doing everything. We're not doing everything. We're doing what we're good at so you can do what you're good at. That's how teams work. The project led to another, then another. By October, Marcus had enough work that he could actually pay Daniel and Lucas small salaries. Not much, but actual money for their labor. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were building something real. One evening, Marcus found Lucas sitting on the porch looking pensive. Mia was inside helping Emma with homework, their laughter drifting through the window. You okay? Marcus asked. Lucas looked up. I keep waiting for it to fall apart. For something to go wrong. Does that feeling ever go away? Marcus sat beside him. I don't know. It's only been a year for us. But I think maybe that fear is just part of rebuilding. We've both lost everything before. It makes sense that we'd be afraid of losing it again. Mia's happy here, Lucas said. I haven't seen her this happy since before Sophia got sick. She talks about Emma like she's her sister. She tells people at school that she has a big sister now. Emma talks about Mia the same way. I never imagined this, Lucas admitted. When we were squatting in your house, terrified you'd call the cops, I couldn't see past the next day. And now look at us. We have a home. We have work. The kids have stability. We built it together, Marcus said. That's the thing people don't tell you about second chances. They're not given, they're built. Brick by brick. Decision by decision. Lucas nodded slowly. Thank you for making that first decision. For choosing to build instead of calling the police. You would have done the same. I don't know if I would have. I'd like to think so, but I honestly don't know. It takes a special kind of person to see strangers in your house and offer them a home instead of consequences. Marcus thought about that. Or it just takes someone who remembers what it feels like to have nowhere to go. As the second year approached, their little business, Bennett and Brothers Restoration, started to gain real traction. Marcus's design skills combined with Daniel's technical expertise and Lucas's craftsmanship created a unique offering. They could take on projects from concept to completion, and they did it with a care that bigger companies couldn't match. They hired their first employee in February, a woman named Sarah who'd recently been laid off from a manufacturing job and needed work. She was in her 50s, weathered by life, and initially skeptical about working for a bunch of kids and a charity case. But she showed up every day, worked hard, and slowly became part of their strange extended family. She taught Emma and Mia how to bake bread on weekends. She bantered with Lucas and Daniel like they were her own sons. She called Marcus out when his perfectionism slowed down projects. You're not designing a museum, she'd say. You're fixing Mrs. Henderson's porch. It needs to be safe and solid, not award-winning. Marcus learned to let go of his old standards and embrace the reality of their work. They weren't creating architectural marvels. They were helping people make their homes better, and that was enough. If stories like this still mean something to you, don't just scroll. Subscribe and stay for the next one. As Marcus stood in the yard of the cottage, now fully restored, beautiful, a real home, watching Emma and Mia lead the other kids in some elaborate game, he felt Rachel's presence. Not as painful absence, but as gentle blessing. You did good, he could imagine her saying. You took your broken heart and built something beautiful with it. Lucas appeared at his elbow, carrying 2 beers. Thinking deep thoughts? Thinking grateful thoughts, Marcus corrected, accepting the beer. 3 years ago, I was convinced my life was over, that I'd lost everything worth having. And now I know you don't lose everything. You just lose the life you planned. But that makes room for the life you're meant to have. Lucas raised his beer. To lives we never planned. To families we never expected. They clinked bottles and drank, surrounded by proof that broken things could be rebuilt stronger than before. Emma was 13 now, confident and bright, talking about architecture school. She wanted to follow in her father's footsteps, but with a focus on sustainable, community-based design. Mia was 9, still attached to Emma's hip but growing into her own person. She wanted to be a builder like Lucas, or maybe a teacher like Jennifer, or possibly a doctor like the ones who'd saved Daniel. She changed her mind weekly. Marcus and Jennifer had married quietly a year ago. She'd moved into the cottage, fitting seamlessly into their unconventional family structure. Daniel had met someone too, Alex, a contractor from 3 towns over who understood the business and shared Daniel's wry sense of humor. They were talking about buying property together, maybe starting a sister company. Lucas was dating Sarah's daughter, Elena, a single mother with 2 kids of her own. The relationship was new but promising. Mia was thrilled at the prospect of more siblings. Bennett and Brothers Restoration had a full-time staff of 8 and a waiting list of clients. They'd restored 17 properties in the region and had developed a reputation for quality work and compassionate business practices. But the cottage remained their headquarters, their foundation, their reminder of where they'd started. One evening, Marcus found himself on the porch again. Always the porch, his favorite thinking spot, watching the sun set over their 12 acres. The garden was lush, the cottage was warm and full of life, and inside he could hear laughter and conversation. Jennifer joined him, sliding an arm around his waist. "You okay?" "Better than okay," Marcus said honestly. "I was just thinking about that first night. How terrified I was when I saw smoke coming from the chimney. How close I came to calling the police instead of walking through that door." "What changed your mind?" "Emma." She saw Mia and immediately saw a person who needed kindness, not a problem to be solved. Kids see things more clearly sometimes. "She learned that from you." "No, I learned it from her. And from Lucas and Daniel. They taught me that the families we need don't always look like the families we planned. Sometimes they're 3 strangers living in your house because they had nowhere else to go." Jennifer laughed. "When you put it that way, it sounds insane." It was insane, but it was also exactly what we all needed. Inside, Emma called out, "Dad! Jennifer! Dinner's ready." They went inside together, into the warmth and noise and beautiful chaos of a family built from broken pieces. A family that had taught Marcus the most important lesson of his life. Sometimes the best things we build aren't buildings at all. They're connections, trust, love, the invisible architecture that holds us up when everything else falls down. And sometimes the people we're meant to find are already waiting in the places we're brave enough to call home. The cottage still stands today, headquarters of Bennett and Brothers Restoration. Above the door is a plaque that reads, "Built on second chances," because that's what it is, what they all are. Proof that when we choose compassion over judgment, when we build instead of destroy, we create something stronger than we could ever construct alone. If this story touched you, if you believe in the power of second chances and the families we build from broken pieces, remember, somewhere right now, someone needs what you needed once. The question isn't whether you'll find them. It's whether you'll be brave enough to walk through the door.